The families who endured frontier winters knew something most of us have forgotten. They understood how to turn an ice-cold cabin into a warm refuge. When the temperature outside dropped to 40 below zero, they perfected methods to keep a fire burning for 12 hours straight without modern tools. With nothing more than moss, animal hair, and mud, they built insulation as effective as many systems we use today. And when things went wrong, when the fire went out, supplies ran short, or blizzards trapped them for weeks, they had emergency plans that kept them alive. In today's world of central heating, electric blankets, and weather apps, we've lost touch with what it truly took to survive a winter night, when failure could mean death before morning. How did these frontier families manage it? What practical solutions did they create from logs and stone? And why do we know so little about these remarkable survival systems that kept our ancestors alive? Before we start, a quick note: if you listen to these often, consider liking or subscribing. I'd also like to know where you're tuning in from, so comment your city and the time right now. Tonight, we step into the Montana frontier of the 1880s. But first, get comfortable. Adjust your pillows, pull up your blanket, because where we're going, you'll want to feel warm. The first thing you notice is the cold against your face, sharp, biting, enough to snap you fully awake. Your eyes open to the pre-dawn darkness of a Montana winter morning in 1883. The temperature outside is 30 below zero, and inside the cabin, it's not much warmer. Your nose and cheeks burn from the chill, while the rest of your body stays buried beneath quilts, fur, and anything else the Morrison family could layer onto the bed. Beside you, your younger siblings are still curled in sleep, their breath forming small clouds that hang in the icy air. The night's fire has burned down to a few faint embers glowing inside the casserine stove across the small cabin. Those embers mean survival. If they've gone out completely, the family faces serious danger. This isn't like your heated home today, where a broken system means an uncomfortable night and a call to a repair service. For the Morrisons and thousands of other frontier families, losing heat in a Montana winter could mean death before morning. Your father, Thomas Morrison, is already awake. You hear the creak of his bed as he sits up, followed by the muted thud of his feet on the plank floor. Unlike your warm bed, his feet touch boards as cold as ice. He wastes no time dressing. He sleeps in most of his clothes during winterland, head straight for the stove, shoulders hunched against the chill, moving with practiced urgency. "Sarah," he whispers to your mother, "I need light." You barely see her shape as she reaches for the bedside table, where a candle and matches wait. The strike of the match is loud in the stillness. For a moment, the flame lights her face, tired, steady, with frost caught in her eyelashes. "Damn cold," your father mutters as he carefully opens the stove door. The hinges groan from the cold, a sound that now confirms the metal is intact in the extreme temperature. A cracked stove would be disastrous. Peering inside, he studies the coals. You hold your breath. The family's morning depends on what he finds. "Still got some life," he says with relief. "Hand me the kindling box." This isn't just a casual morning fire. It's part of a precise survival method perfected through years of trial and error. Every movement follows a tested sequence. First, he lays small, dry splinters of pine prepared weeks ago and stored near the stove for this exact moment. He arranges them carefully over the coals, leaving space for air while making sure the smallest pieces touch the embers. "This is the last handful," he notes. "John, we'll need to cut more today." At 12, you're old enough for this important task. The kindling must be exact. Too thick, and it won't light. Too thin, and it burns out before catching larger wood. Your father leans in, blowing gently, not quick puffs, but long, steady breaths that feed oxygen without cooling the coals. It's a skill that took years to master. Slowly, a small flame appears, licking at the kindling. He adds slightly larger sticks, arranging them to form a small log cabin shape for airflow. The fire strengthens. "Emma, check the water bucket," your mother says to your older sister. Emma slips from the bed, wrapping a shawl around her nightclothes. She lifts the bucket in the corner, frozen solid. "We'll need to melt snow again," your mother says, Getting up, the younger children, 2 little brothers and a baby sister, stay bundled together, sharing warmth. At 6, 4, and 2 years old, they'll remain in bed as long as possible. Thomas, how cold is it? Your mother asks, while pulling on a wool dress over her nightgown. Layering is survival. He doesn't need a thermometer. Years on the frontier have made him a human gauge. Must have hit 40 below. Coldest yet this winter. Colder than last February, she asks, remembering a freeze that burst their water barrel indoors and killed a neighbor's cow. Not quite, he says, but it's only January. The worst is still ahead. He feeds the fire slowly. Too much wood too soon would smother it. This morning fire ritual isn't just for comfort, it's survival. Knowing how to revive a fire from near-dead embers is more valuable than gold here. John, time to get up, your mother calls. We need water for breakfast. You slide from under the quilts, the cold striking you like a blow. Fingers stiff, you pull on clothes quickly, adding a second pair of wool socks your mother knitted last fall from your own sheep's wool. Outside, the pre-dawn world is beautiful, yet deadly. Stars shine sharply in the black sky, and snow reflects enough light to walk without a lantern. Your breath freezes instantly, forming ice on your scarf. You pull it tight, leaving only your eyes uncovered. The shed door is frozen shut. You slam your shoulder into it 3 times before the ice breaks. Inside, you grab the wooden snow shovel your father made last winter and head to the untouched snow at the edge of the clearing. You've been taught never to take snow near buildings, where it might be contaminated. The snow is so cold it squeaks under your boots, light and powdery, yielding little water when melted. You heap the bucket full, packing it tightly. By the time you return, the fire has warmed the space near the stove. Your father has placed the first small logs to build a cold bed. The stove's metal sides creak as they expand in the heat. Good job, your mother says, placing the snow near enough to melt safely. Help your father with the bigger logs while I start breakfast. Your father stands by the indoor woodpile, perfectly stacked supply, cut and seasoned months ago. We need oak for the morning fire, he explains, though you know it already. Pine burns too fast. Hickory is for overnight. Oak gives steady heat for the morning. He chooses 3 logs, each forearm length and wrist thick, selected for shape, grain, and moisture. Remember, John, he says, handing you one. We not just building a fire, we rebuilding a heat system that must work every time. A bad fire wastes wood. Or worse, it goes out and the cabin freezes. By afternoon, we couldn't stay here. 2-year-old Catherine says nothing she has already adapted to the rhythm of frontier winters. She burrows deeper under the quilts, only her eyes and the top of her head showing. Your father returns to the stove carrying oak logs. He opens the door carefully, studies the flames, and places the first log exactly where it will catch without smothering the fire. The wood hisses and cracks as it heats. Perfect, he mutters. He shuts the stove and adjusts the damper, which controls airflow and burning speed to open, and it burns too quickly, too closed, and it smolders, risking smoke. On the stove, a cast-iron pot holds snow you collected earlier. It's already melting to slush, then water. Beside it, a coffee pot and a larger pot for the cornmeal mush sit ready. Nothing goes to waste. The same fire heats the cabin, cooks the food, and melts snow for drinking, cooking, and a limited washing possible in deep winter. John, check the windows, your father instructs. Each window has been sealed for winter. Rags stuffed into frame gaps. Oiled paper over the glass for insulation while letting in light, and heavy quilts to trap heat. You check each one, making sure coverings are in place. At the east window, you pull back the quilt for a moment. There's a faint light in the sky. Sun's coming. You report. Good, your father replies. We've got wood to cut today, and I'd rather not do it in the dark. The fire is strong now, melting the snow in the pot quickly. Your mother stirs cornmeal into boiling water, making the mush that will fuel the day's labor. The cabin, freezing half an hour ago, is now warm within 6 feet of the stove. You can see the line where warm and cold air meet. Emma, bring Catherine over, your mother says, and keep her feet covered. Emma carries the toddler, still wrapped in a quilt, to the stove. Catherine's face relaxes as she feels the heat. Thomas, we're low on lamp oil. Your mother reminds you if this cold keeps up, we'll be in the dark by next week. Your father nods. I know. I'm hoping to get to town before the next storm, but the sky looks bad. This is winter survival, constant judgment of supplies, weather, and needs. Every choice matters. Go to town and risk the storm, or stay and risk shortages. Cut wood or repair the north wall chinking. Each decision carries real consequences. Now, the cabin is as warm as it will get, about 45, near the stove, still freezing by the walls. Frost on the interior logs hasn't melted, only glistened in the firelight. Breakfast, your mother calls. Everyone gathers at the small table, except your father, who eats by the door. I need to check the animals, he says, pulling on his heavy fur-lined coat. It's too cold for them in the lean-to. Bring the chickens inside. The cow too, if needed, your mother insists. He shakes his head. Cow won't fit, but I've wrapped her well in the barn and banked hay against the walls. Chickens might have to come in. He opens the door, letting in a blast of icy air, then shuts it quickly. The family eats the hot cornmeal, quickly talking, waste time and body heat. Every calorie is vital. Every minute in the cold drains energy. John, help me prepare the heated stones when you're done, your mother says. These smooth creek rocks, collected in summer, stay near the stove all day. At night, wrapped in layers of cloth, they go into beds for extra warmth. You select 4 stones, almost too hot to handle, and your mother wraps them cotton first, then wool scraps, then an old blanket tied with twine. She sends you to place them under quilts in the children's beds. Within minutes, they'll create lasting heat pockets. Your father returns with a crate of chickens. It's bad, he says. Thermometer in the barn shattered from the cold. And the cow, your mother asks, still alive but shaking. Gave her more feed and hay. I'll check again in an hour. The well's frozen solid will be melting snow for at least a week. By now, Emma has unfolded the small table near the stove and is helping your mother prepare breakfast. The winter menu rarely changes cornmeal mush, sometimes with a drizzle of molasses, if supplies allow, and coffee for the adults. On rare days, there might be salt, pork, or bacon, but meat is rationed carefully during the coldest months. The younger children are awake, still under their bedding, but sitting up, waiting for the cabin to warm enough to leave the quilts. Little Michael, 4 years old, rests his hand in the fur of Buck, the family's large mixed-breed dog, who sleeps with them for extra warmth. Mama, it's so cold, my teeth hurt, complains 6-year-old William. Stay under the covers a little longer, your mother advises. It'll warm soon. Melting snow, for all water needs, adds heavy firewood demand. How's our wood, your mother asks. About 8 days worth inside, another week's in a covered stack. He hangs his coat to thaw and says, we'll cut more today, no matter what. There is no break from the work of survival. Each day brings non-negotiable tasks. Your father eats his cooled cornmeal, without complaint. John and I will cut wood once it's light. Emma, you can help in the barn. And I'll need to repack the snow against the north wall it's drifted, and the drafts coming through. Snowbanking is simple but effective insulation, though it needs regular upkeep after windstorms. What about ice on the roof? Your mother asks. It's building near the chimney, he says. I'll clear it first. Ice dams can force meltwater under shingles, flooding the cabin. Outside, dawn light spreads. The day may warm slightly, maybe to -20, making work only a little less harsh. Your father finishes eating and gives instructions. Roof ice first, then animals, then woodlocked. You pull on extra socks, knowing the hours ahead will be grueling and cold. The oiled paper on the window glows with dawn light, revealing frost patterns. Beautiful, yet dangerous. At least it's not snowing. You think, storm's coming, your father says quietly. 6 hours to prepare cut wood, secure animals, check insulation. Just another winter day on the Montana frontier, where every fire kept is a victory. You push away thoughts of how many more winters you can endure. The fire is burning, the cabin is warm enough, and the work is waiting. In the modern world, 68 indoors is ordinary. Back then, it was unthinkable luxury. You follow your father outside. The cold seizes your breath, freezes your eyelashes, and bites through every layer. Keep moving, he says. Standing still kills. The sun rises over the hills, casting long blue shadows on the snow. The squeak under your boots tells you it's still far below zero. Your father hands you a wooden snow rake. Start in the south corner. I'll check the chimney. You scrape heavy snow and ice from the roof while your fingers ache through double mittens. Your father, working near the chimney, knocks away thick ice. Another day and smoke would have backed up inside, he warns. A blocked chimney can suffocate a family or force them into deadly cold. Clearing done, your mind turns to the bigger task: firewood. Frontier families had mastered it. Choosing the right trees, cutting at the right time, seasoning the wood, and sizing it for different heating needs. Your father moves to the north wall, shoveling snow against the base. You join him, packing it tightly to block wind. This snowbanking method is as practical as it is simple. A natural insulation layer adds extra warmth to the cabin interior behind the rough-hewn logs. Your mother and siblings rely on these snowbanks to keep the temperature bearable. With urgent roof and wall repairs finished, your father leads you to the barn. It's a smaller, rough structure compared to the cabin, but essential for protecting the livestock. Inside, the family milk cow stands shivering, wrapped in old blankets and surrounded by hay. She's not doing well, your father says grimly, running his hand along her bony side. Another night like this could finish her. The cow is one of the family's most valuable assets, providing milk, butter, and eventually calves. Losing her would be disastrous, equal to losing thousands of dollars today. We'll bring her inside tonight, he decides. We'll put her in the corner by the woodpile. It's an extreme choice, bringing livestock into the family's living space. The cabin is already crowded with 9 people, and adding a large cow means even less space and extra mess. But losing her is not an option. What about the chickens? You ask, nodding toward the second stall where a dozen hens huddle quietly in the cold. They'll stay inside until this cold snap ends, your father replies. Your mother won't be happy about the mess, but we can't risk losing them. These decisions highlight the winter's survival economy. Every animal, every cord of wood, and every preserved food supply is a carefully managed resource, standing between the family and hunger or freezing. With the morning chores complete, your father turns to the main task of the day. Get the saws and axes, he says. We'll take the sled to the woodlot. The woodlot lies about a quarter mile from the cabin. Most nearby trees were cleared years ago during construction, so firewood now requires longer trips. You collect the tools from the lean-to, bitumen saws with long steel blades and wooden handles, 3 axes of various sizes, and iron wedges for splitting. Each is carefully maintained, the blades kept sharp with regular filing, the handles oiled to prevent drying and cracking. John Thomas, wait, your mother calls from the cabin door. Wrapped in a shawl, she hurries toward you with something in her hands. Take these, she says, handing over 2 extra pairs of wool socks. Put these over your mittens. It's too cold for just leather and wool today. This method, layering wool socks over mittens, gives extra protection to hands most at risk of frostbite. It works better than any single pair of gloves available at the time. And take this, she adds, passing you a small tin. Inside is a mix of bear grease and beeswax for your faces. Don't want your skin cracking. You and your father apply the greasy, strong-smelling mixture, which creates a barrier against the harsh cold and wind. We'll be back before sunset, your father says. Your mother nods, understanding the unspoken meaning. If you're not back by dark, something has gone wrong, and she will have to ration the limited indoor wood supply. The wooden sled waits by the barn, a sturdy, homemade design with curved oak runners for hauling heavy wood over snow. In summer, wood travels by wagon, but snow actually makes the work easier by reducing friction. Your father straps himself into the sled harness, leather straps crossing his shoulders. You'll help pull on the way back when it's loaded. For now, you walk alongside, carrying smaller tools while he drags the saws. The walk to the woodlot is silent, both of you conserving energy and shielding your faces from the cold air. Your breath freezes instantly, forming ice on your scarf and hat. The forest, when you reach it, feels warmer, with the trees blocking the wind. Your father surveys the trees carefully. "We need a mix today," he says. "Oak for steady heat, hickory for overnight, and some pine for quick morning fires." He moves from tree to tree, tapping trunks with his axe. "This oak's been dead about 2 years," he notes, pointing to a medium-sized tree with bare lower bark. "Perfect, already seasoned, but still solid." This is generational frontier knowledge. Living trees hold too much moisture to burn well, while those dead too long rot and burn poorly. Ideally, a tree dead for 1 to 3 years provides the best firewood, dry but dense with energy. "We'll take this one first," he says, taking his place on one side of the trunk. "Get on the other end of the saw." The Tumen crosscut saw has a flexible steel blade with teeth that cut in both directions. You grip the handle opposite your father. "Let the saw do the work," he instructs. "Don't force it. Long, steady strokes." Good technique saves effort and prevents damage to tools that are hard to replace. You start the back and forth motion, the rhythm building. Despite the cold, you soon warm up, steam rising from your clothes. Your grandfather could cut a cord a day, even in his 60s. Your father says during a pause. "How?" you ask. He understood wood, what to cut, how to fell it, how to split with the grain. A smart man does half the work of a strong, foolish one. The tree begins to creak near the end of the cut, tension in the trunk pressing on the blade. "Careful," your father warns. "It's leaning." Felling trees is dangerous. One mistake can be fatal, especially with no doctor for miles and deadly cold. "Back," he shouts as the oak cracks sharply. You step away at an angle to the fall line. The trunk hesitates, then crashes down, shaking the frozen ground. "Good," your father says. "Fell clean, no hangers." Now comes the hard part, cutting the trunk into stove-sized sections, splitting them, and loading them on the sled. "Let's bucket into stove lengths," he says, meaning pieces about 18 inches long, perfect for the cabin stove. Too long, and they won't fit. Too short, and they burn too quickly. As you cut, he explains. Pine burns hot and fast, good for starting fires or quick heat, but it burns too quick for overnight and makes creosote. You ask what creosote is. That black tar in the chimney. Burn only pine, and you'll need to clean every 2 weeks or risk a fire. Oak burns slow, makes steady coals. Hickory's the best, dense, slow, hot. Bank it right, and it'll keep coals till morning. Banking means arranging logs and controlling airflow for a steady burn, and other skill learned by necessity. With a section cut, your father sets down the saw and picks up an axe. "Now for splitting. Watch where I place the wedge." Split wood burns more efficiently than whole logs because it offers more surface area for the fire. But splitting requires knowing how the grain runs and where to place tools for the best results with the least effort. Your father studies the oak round, spotting natural cracks that show the grain's direction. He sets an iron wedge along one of these lines, then strikes it firmly with the back of his axe. The frozen wood resists at first, but after 3 solid blows, a crack appears, and the round begins to split. "See that?" he says, pointing to the split. "Always work with the grain, not against it. Wood wants to break a certain way. Fight it, and you'll work twice as hard." He inserts a second wedge into the opening, drives it deeper, and the round splits in 2. Each half will be divided again until it's the right size for the stove. You join in, learning by doing where to place wedges, how hard to strike, and how to read the wood's natural patterns. It's tiring work, made harder by the cold that stiffens muscles and drains body heat. After 2 hours, you've cut about a quarter of the fallen oak. Your father straightens, rubbing his lower back. "We need to pace ourselves," he says. "Still at least 4 more hours of work, and we should be back before the storm." He pulls a small cloth bundle from inside his coat. Sure, mother's preparation. Inside are pieces of cold cornbread and strips of dried venison. Not a full meal, but essential fuel for working in the cold. You eat quickly, sitting on the fallen trunk. Despite the low temperature, the work has built enough heat to keep you comfortable as long as you stay active. The danger, your father has often warned, is stopping when sweat freezes against your skin. Should we get some pine, too? You ask between bites. He nods. After this oak, we'll take one pine, maybe a hickory if there's time. As work resumes, he shifts into teaching mode, not with formal lessons, but through the practical skills that keep frontier families alive. Fire's like a living thing, he says as you split another round. It needs the right fuel at the right time, proper air, and constant attention. He explains how the cabin's heating works as one system. The stove with its dampers, the chimney drawing smoke while holding heat, water containers placed to add humidity, and furniture arranged for the best heat zones. Your mother knows exactly where to put the baby's cradle, he says. Not too close to the stove, not too close to the wall, just where the temperature stays steady. This is the frontier's version of climate control, achieved through observation and tradition rather than technology. By mid-morning, the oak is fully processed into stove-sized pieces and stacked neatly on the sled. Your father chooses a dead pine next, and you fell it together, cutting it into sections. Pine splits far easier than oak, so the work is faster. Suddenly he looks up at the sky. Storm's coming sooner than I thought. The blue of early morning has turned flat gray, and the wind is rising, whistling through the trees. We'll skip the hickory. What we have will do. Let's load and head back. You help stack the split wood carefully, securing the 4-foot pile with rope so nothing falls during the trip. That's about half a cord, he estimates. Should last for days if we're careful. Both of you strap into the sled harness. The load is heavy, several hundred pounds of hardwood, but the runners glide well over packed snow. The return is slower than the trip out. The sled needs constant guiding to prevent it from sliding sideways on slopes or sinking into softer snow. When the cabin comes into view, the wind has grown strong, blowing sharp snow that stings any exposed skin. Just in time, your father says, glancing at the darkening western sky. Blizzard within the hour. Your mother meets you at the door, relieved. Was getting worried, she says, helping unfasten the straps. Storm's close. How's the fire? Your father asks immediately. Burning steady. Emma's been tending it, like you taught her. Inside, it's what passes for warm, about 50 near the stove, colder near the walls. Emma stands by the stove, adjusting a log with the poker. At 15, she's already skilled at keeping the fire going. Good work, your father says, inspecting the firebox. Coal bed's perfect. This is high praise when fire means survival. Emma beams, tired from managing both the stove and younger siblings all morning. We need to stack the wood before the storm hits, your father says, heading back outside. John, stack inside. I'll pass it through. For the next half hour, wood is moved from sled to the indoor pile. Each piece is checked for snow or ice. Moisture would hurt burning quality. The stack is placed on the wall, farthest from the stove, but still inside the warm zone, to dry further. The wood is sorted by type and size, with pine apart from oak, and the driest pieces within easy reach. That's the last, your father says, handing the final armload as the wind howls. He closes the door quickly. Storm's here. The family has enough firewood to last through days of snow. This was not just luck or hard work. It was knowledge passed down about trees, tools, wood properties, and reading weather. Your father checks the stove. The coals glow beneath partly burned logs. He adjusts the damper to slow the burn. Now we can ride out the storm, he says. We've got heat, water, and food. That's all we need. Outside, the blizzard covers the homestead in white. Inside, the Morrison family has built a small, self-sustaining climate around the fire. You warm your hands, realizing this was more than a chore, it was survival engineering. The stove crackles, turning stored summer energy into life-saving heat, holding the deadly cold at bay. The storm rages, the wind finding any gap in the walls. Sounds angry out there, Emma says, glancing at the ceiling as the wind whistles. Storm like this could kill a man in minutes, your father replies. It's testing the cabin for weaknesses. Snow drifts form at small leaks. Thomas, there's a draft at the north window again, your mother says, pointing to a dusting of snow on the sill. He frowns. Thought I fixed that. The colds shrunk the clay. Even a small gap can waste heat and increase wood use. We'll need to mix more, he says. Sarah, do we still have animal hair? A little, in the chest, she answers. This might seem odd animal hair for a window, but you know the process well. John, get the clay pot from behind the stove, your father says. You bring the small container, kept near enough to stay warm but not dry out. Inside is clay soil collected in summer for winter repairs. Your mother takes out a pouch of mixed fur, hair, and wool from various sources. Nothing is wasted. Emma, bring the ash bucket, your father adds. This is a refined form of chinking, sealing gaps between logs. Basic chinking is just clay, but experienced families add wood ash for fire resistance and animal hair for binding strength, creating a durable seal. Need the right consistency, your father mutters while mixing. Too wet, it freezes. Too dry, it won't stick. This knowledge how to work in sub-zero conditions is passed by practice, not books. Your mother holds the lantern for light, and your father presses the mixture into the gap, smoothing it with skill built over years of winter repairs. This should hold, he says, stepping back to check his work, at least until it's warm enough for a proper fix. The whole process takes less than 15 minutes, but prevents valuable heat from escaping. In a modern home, a small draft might go unnoticed or be seen as a minor annoyance. In a frontier cabin during a Montana winter, it could mean the difference between life and death. Your father returns to his place by the stove, warming hands chilled during the repair. The wind outside seems to howl louder, as if frustrated by the family's defenses. Remember the Anderson place? He asks your mother. Winter of '78, she nods. Poor construction. Walls might as well have been cloth. What happened to them? Emma asks. Your parents share a look, debating how much to tell the children. Finally, your father answers. They didn't make it past February. Found them huddled in a corner. Fire had gone out days before. The cabin falls silent, except for the crackling fire and the storm outside. The Anderson family's fate, a household, frozen in their poorly insulated cabin, remains a clear warning. That's why I'm particular about chinking and insulation, your father says. It's not just comfort, it's survival. Little Michael, playing with wooden blocks near the stove, looks up. Will we freeze too, Papa? No, son, your father assures. Our cabin is strong and will see old. Your mama and I made sure of that. This is truth. The Morrison cabin reflects years of frontier knowledge, tested over 6 harsh Montana winters. Tell us again about building the cabin, William asks. Your father leans back. We didn't just stack logs and call it done. First, we chose the right tri-straight pines, 16 to 18 inches thick, with a little taper. We cut them in early spring, when sap was just starting to run, but before it flowed fully. Cutting at the wrong time could mean too much moisture, leading to shrinkage or insect damage. We peeled the bark right away, he continues, and let them season through summer, turning them regularly so they dried evenly. Emma, who knows the story well, adds, and you notched them so they'd fit tight. That's right, her father nods. Saddle notch on the bottom, V-notch on top keeps water out and stops moisture from freezing and splitting the wood. Every step balanced strength, weather resistance, and warmth. But his proudest feature was the double wall construction on the north and west sides. Learned from an old trapper who survived 20 mountain winters. Most cabins have single walls, he explains, but ours has an extra inner wall on the sides with the worst weather. Leaves a dead air gap, best insulation there is. This foreign space was packed with dried moss gathered from the forest floor. Remember all that moss we collected? John, he asks with a smile. You do 100 bushels one summer, which seemed endless work at the time, but later proved vital for winter warmth. And the chinking, your mother says. It was the hardest job, filling every gap between logs with moss or cloth scraps. Then sealing with the clay and hair mixture your father just used for repairs. Took us a month to do all the walls, your father recalls. Your mother's hands were raw. Worth every blister, she says, looking at the sturdy walls. The conversation turns to other insulation features. The roof was more than boards, it was split logs, birch bark, dried moss, and sod laid in overlapping layers. The Norwegians up north taught me that, he says. Sod holds heat in winter, stays cool in summer, and the weight seals everything tighter. 6-year-old William asks, why is the floor so cold if the walls are warm? That's the weak spot, your father admits. Cold comes through the ground. The floor was raised off the soil, with pine boughs stuffed in the crawl space for insulation. Beds were built 2 feet above floor level to avoid the chill. And the paper, your mother reminds him, he chuckles. 3 years worth of newspapers, from back east, best wallpaper there is. They served as extra insulation, reduced drafts, reflected light, and even provided reading material. But they also carried a fire risk. If placed too close to the stovepipe, survival meant balancing warmth and safety. Baby Catherine stirs in her mother's arms. She's too warm now. Your mother notes the repair worked. She can feel the difference in the corner's warmth without a thermometer. Better bank the fire, your father says. Emma adjusts the damper to save fuel. Maintaining the right heat with minimal wood was another essential skill. Outside, the blizzard still rages, but it feels less threatening now. I sometimes wonder if those houses back east with radiators are as warm as ours, your father muses. Probably not, your mother says. They don't understand real insulation, they just burn more coal. The talk turns to neighbors. McClintock's place is drafty, your father says. They're using 20 logs a day to stay above freezing. Your mother adds, at that rate, they won't last through February. He concludes, this is not gossip's concern. Poor insulation wastes fuel and threatens survival. Should we invite them if they run out? Emma asks, reflecting the frontier's spirit of helping others despite scarce resources. Your parents exchange a glance filled with careful calculation, compassion weighed against survival, resources against risk. We'll help if we can, your father finally says, but we have to make sure our own family gets through first. This difficult balance deciding when help is possible without endangering your own was a constant reality of frontier life, one that modern thinking often struggles to understand. The day continues, the storm still raging outside. Inside, the family turns to winter tasks. Your mother mends clothing. Emma teaches the younger children their letters on a slate board. You help your father repair a broken chair leg. Throughout the afternoon, he inspects the cabin's insulation, testing for drafts with a candle flame, adding more snow against the outside walls, and rechecking earlier repairs. Might as well use this storm time to improve things, he says, pointing to a gap where 2 logs meet near the door. John, let's mix another batch of chinking. That corner has always been trouble. Working together, you prepare the mixture and patch areas where the original material has worn away. Small repairs add up, making the cabin noticeably better at holding heat. Your grandfather always said a well-sealed cabin is worth more than another cord of wood, your father notes as you finish. He knew what he was talking about. By late afternoon, the fire, insulation, and snow-banked walls create a surprisingly comfortable interior. Near the stove, it's about 65 degrees luxury by frontier standards. Even the far corners stay above freezing. As night approaches, though the storm makes it impossible to see outside, your father prepares for the cold ahead. He selects logs for the night fire. You want heat through the night without getting up every hour. That's the real skill, he says. Night fires burn differently. Large logs arranged to last, building a deep coal bed and steady heat. He adds a layer of ash over the coals to slow the burn. If we do this right, we'll have live coals at dawn and won't need to start over. The family gets ready for bed not by changing into special clothes, but by adding layers. On the frontier, people often slept in their daytime clothing during winter, removing only the heaviest outer layer. Sleeping arrangements also conserve heat. The younger children share a bed under thick quilts. You and Emma sleep on separate pallets close together, and your parents check everything before turning in stove damper. set windows covered, heated stones wrapped in rags at each bed's foot. It'll be 20 below by midnight, your father says, looking at the ice-coated window. Maybe 30 below by dawn. His voice holds no fear, just the calm certainty of a man who has prepared well. The cabin, with its layers of insulation and well-managed fire, is ready to withstand another severe Montana night. As you lie in bed under heavy quilts, the storm's roar outside is a reminder of the deadly cold beyond the walls, but instead of fear, you feel gratitude for the systems keeping you alive. Double walls filled with moss, tight chinking, a layered roof, and a raised floor. These are not just construction choices, but survival knowledge passed down through generations, now mostly forgotten. In the deep night, you wake to the sound of splintering wood. Disoriented, you wonder if the storm has damaged the cabin. Thomas, your mother says urgently, the fire's almost out. You hear your father move quickly from the bed. The cabin feels noticeably colder. Watch for nails, he warns calmly. I'm breaking up the chair. Now you understand the sound was furniture being sacrificed to save the fire. The logs have burned down too fast, maybe from the intense cold or a piece of wood burning poorly. If the fire dies completely, restarting it would take time and resources, and the cabin could lose heat dangerously fast. It's catching, your father says with relief. John, I need you up. We need more wood from the lean-to. You leave your bed instantly, no hesitation. Survival demands immediate action. The cabin air is shockingly cold compared to the bed's warmth. Your breath clouds in the dim light as you pull on boots, skipping extra layers for the short trip. Your father lights a small candle and leads the way to the lean-to, unheated storage area for wood, tools, and supplies. Ready? He asks, hand on the latch. You nod. He opens the door, and a wave of bitter cold hits far worse than inside. The lean-to is about 30 below zero. Working quickly, you gather armfuls of wood. Within seconds, your bare fingers ache. After a minute, they go numb. The first warning of frostbite. Enough, your father says, seeing your clumsy movements. Back inside, the wood is stacked near the stove. Your father feeds it into the fire, which is reviving thanks to the chair wood. Hands near the stove, your mother instructs, but not too close. Rapid heating can damage skin. You know the process. Hold them a foot away from the glowing stove until circulation returns. Your mother checks them closely. No whiteness, just red. You'll be fine. Waxy white skin would mean frozen tissue, sometimes leading to the loss of fingers or toes. Frontier families learn to spot early frostbite and act fast. She hands you a tin of bear grease. Rub this in, then put these on. The heavy wool mittens, lined with rabbit fur, are usually saved for the worst weather. But tonight's cold warrants it. The grease seals in warmth, prevents moisture loss, and protects the skin from winter dryness. The fire is steady again. That was close, your father mutters. Even with skill and preparation, winter nights can turn dangerous quickly. Everyone is awake now. Emma keeps the younger children near the stove. Your father decides to change sleeping arrangements. It's going to get colder before dawn, he says. Body heat, shelter, your mother asks. He nods. This method is for extreme cold below 40 below zero. You've only used it twice before. You moved a table against a far wall, and your parents drape quilts over it to form an enclosed tent. The younger children bring their bedding. Catherine will sleep between your parents. The idea is simple. Create a small, sealed space to trap body heat. Done properly, it can be 20 to 30 degrees warmer than the rest of the cabin. No gaps in the quilts, your father says. He volunteers to tend the fire all night, but your mother insists on shifts 2 hours each, ending with you and Emma before dawn. The wind worsens outside, finding new ways into the cabin. Might as well dress properly, your mother says. No sense sleeping in light clothes tonight. Everyone layers up, according to long-tested rules. Start with wool, she tells the children. Cotton kills. Wet cotton loses its insulation and draws heat from the body. Lesson hard-earned and never forgotten. Wool, unlike many other materials, keeps most of its insulating ability, even when damp. The base layer for everyone is wool, long underwear for adults and older children, and simple wool shirts and leggings for the younger ones. Over this comes a middle layer, usually flannel or more wool, and then a heavier outer layer, even indoors. Don't forget your heads, your mother says, handing out knitted wool caps. That's where most heat escapes. This knowledge of body heat loss guided frontier clothing, long before modern thermal imaging confirmed that up to 30% of heat can escape through an uncovered head. Special care is given to socks. Everyone puts on fresh, dry wool socks. Some hand-knit by your mother from the family's sheep, others bought during rare trips to town. Those with cold-sensitive feet add a second pair. John, check everyone's feet before they go into the shelter, your father says as he adjusts the stove damper. Any dampness must be fixed immediately. This is not just for comfort, it's survival. In the cold, damp feet quickly lead to immersion foot, a condition frontier people knew well, later called trench foot by soldiers. It can progress from discomfort to tissue death and gangrene with alarming speed. You move among your siblings, checking socks and feet with practiced speed. Emma, at 15, has already done her own check. 6-year-old William and 4-year-old Michael cooperate without complaint. They've been taught these steps are mandatory. Michael's left sock has a damp spot at the heel. You tell your mother, who immediately replaces it with one from the drying rack near the stove. Once everyone is properly dressed, your mother organizes entry into the body heat shelter. It's not just crawling inside. There is a set arrangement to maximize warmth and comfort. Catherine in the middle, she says, placing the toddler at the center of the enclosed space. Boys on either side, then Emma and John on the outside. Since you're oldest, this puts the youngest, most vulnerable family members in the middle, surrounded by the larger bodies of older children and adults. The reason is simple. Smaller bodies lose heat faster because of their higher surface area to mass ratio. Your father, taking the first fire-tending shift, helps secure the quilt walls once everyone is inside. Keep these sealed tight, he reminds you. Don't let warm air escape when you move. Inside, the effect is immediate. The combined heat of 6 people in the small enclosed space creates warmth no stove could match for efficiency. In minutes, the temperature rises noticeably. It's working, Emma whispers, already taking off her wool cap as the space warms. The younger children relax, and Catherine falls back to sleep almost instantly. From your spot near the edge, you hear your father tending the fire and checking for drafts. Sometimes the wind outside roars so loudly it drowns all other sounds, a reminder of the deadly cold just beyond the cabin walls. Yet the body heat shelter is surprisingly comfortable, a return to one of the oldest and most effective ways of keeping warm. For thousands of years, shared body heat in enclosed spaces was humanity's main defense against extreme cold. Try to sleep, your mother says from across the shelter. Your shift will come soon enough. Sleep comes easily in the cocoon-like warmth. When your father wakes you for the change of watch, it feels like only minutes have passed, though 2 hours are gone. Your mother's taking over now, he says. I'll join you in another 2 hours. He slides into her spot, his body still cold from fire duty, and the children instinctively move closer. It's down to 40 below, he says quietly. Maybe lower. The thermometer only goes to -40. Such temperatures can freeze exposed skin in under a minute. Only their careful layers of protection, the insulated cabin, managed fire, body heat shelter, and layered clothing, stand between the family and deadly cold. After your mother's shift, it's time for you and Emma to take the last watch before dawn. You leave the shelter for the main cabin, which feels bitterly cold by comparison. Stove's burning well, your mother says, as she prepares to join the others. Add wood every 30 minutes, no more than 2 pieces at a time. We need to stretch our supply. You and Emma nod, knowing how important fire management is now. Check everyone's exposed skin when you wake them, she adds. Especially fingers and noses. This cold is dangerous. Your parents settle into the shelter, and you and Emma take your places by the stove. Even indoors, you both wear full winter gear, multiple wool layers, heavy socks, caps, and mittens, removing them only briefly to tend the fire. "I'll make coffee," Emma says, reaching for the metal pot. A warm drink is a small but welcome comfort. Hot liquids warm the body from within, complementing outside heat sources. As Emma makes coffee, you check the cabin's defenses. Window covers secure, chinking intact, doors sealed, storm still going. You report, feeling frigid air through a small gap. The blizzard has raged for almost 24 hours, testing every survival skill the family has. Without generations of frontier knowledge, they would have failed long ago. Emma hands you a steaming tin cup. "Remember last winter?" she asks. The Petersons, you nod. That family, new to frontier life, had struggled through their first Montana winter. By February, low supplies and a poorly built cabin forced them to butcher their only milk cow. "Papa says they'll probably head back east in spring," Emma says. "Not everyone can handle winters out here." The hours pass slowly. Every 30 minutes, you add exactly 2 pieces of wood, selecting each for best heat and burn time. Between tending the fire, you and Emma talk quietly. Conversations that only happen on long winter nights. At dawn, your father emerges from the shelter, looking well-rested despite the night. "Made it through another one," he says, checking your firework. "Good job keeping the coals alive." In this environment, doing things right means living another day. Your mother joins him, and together they dismantled the body heat shelter. The younger children, still bundled, sleep on bedding, now placed near the stove. Storms breaking, your father says after peeking outside. Winds are dropping, and skies are clearing. Relief is immediate. A blizzard's end means the worst danger is over, though the cold will remain for days. In daylight, the family shifts to its morning routine, adjusting for the extreme cold. The water bucket, kept near the stove overnight, still has a crust of ice to break. 43 below. Your father reports from the north wall thermometer. Never seen it this cold this early in January. Still, the Morrison family made it through without real hardship. Not by modern comfort standards, but without risk to life. Their system from cabin design, to clothing, to fire, and body heat management, worked even in conditions that could kill in minutes. As you help prepare breakfast, you realize that last night was more than survival. It was the use of refined thermal strategies, passed down through generations. Methods so effective, they made life possible where unprepared people would fail. 3 days later, the cold still holds, but the sky is a blinding blue, and the snow is sculpted into strange shapes. Your father stands in the doorway, scanning the frozen valley. "Need to check on the neighbors," he says. "McClintocks don't have enough experience for cold like this. Is it safe?" your mother asks. He nods. "Winds are gone. Cold's still dangerous, but we can handle it." He looks at you. "John, you're coming with me." At 12, you re old enough to help with community checks. A key part of frontier winter survival that says mostly forgotten today. "Dress fully," your mother says, already gathering your heaviest gear. No shortcuts. Preparing to step outside in 40 below temperatures is a careful, methodical process. First comes the base layer of wool underclothes, followed by flannel for the middle layer, then heavy wool pants and a shirt. Over that goes a buckskin vest lined with rabbit fur, and finally, a heavy canvas coat with a hood lined in bear fur. Special care is given to your feet. Thin cotton socks, first a rare case where cotton works in winter, because it draws moisture away from the skin. Then 2 pairs of thick wool socks, and finally moccasins, lined with rabbit fur, wrapped in canvas leggings, tied above the calf. Your hands are covered with thin liner gloves under heavy fur-lined mittens, with extra long cuffs that reach well up the forearm, ensuring no gap for cold air. Face covering, your father reminds you, handing over a wool scarf kept near the stove so it stays completely dry. In such cold, any moisture from breath or sweat can freeze instantly, turning fabric into a conductor for the cold. The last step is food. Your mother hands you a small cloth bundle pumpkin and a slice of dried apple cake. If you're delayed, you'll need the extra calories. Pumpkin, a mix of dried meat, fat, and berries, serves as the frontier's emergency ration, high in energy and slow to spoil. We'll head to the McClintock place first, then see Old Man Patterson if we have time, your father says, adjusting his gear. He adds, should be back by midday, the unspoken truth. If you're not back by then, something has gone wrong. Your mother insists on the emergency kitta, small leather pouch with fire-starting materials, extra pemmican, and basic medical supplies. After checking that, no skin is exposed, except for a narrow strip around the eyes. You and your father step into the killing cold. The effect is instant and harsh. Even with all the layers, the air feels solid, like an invisible wall, pushing back against every step. Your breath freezes on your scarf within seconds. Keep moving, your father says, voice muffled, and watch for signs. The signs are early frostbite or hypothermia, ringing in the ears, prickling in the fingers and toes, followed by numbness or the dangerous euphoria that can come before freezing to death. The McClintock home is about a mile away, namely a 20-minute walk, but in this cold, it will take twice that. Your father sets a steady pace, not fast enough to cause sweating, not so slow that body heat drops. The snow makes that deep squeaking sound that only comes in extreme cold, and you must lift your feet high to clear drifts. That's why we don't wear too many layers on the legs, your father says. They warm themselves if you keep moving. It's the hands and feet we have to protect. This understanding of how the body produces and loses heat in severe cold is a key survival skill, one mostly forgotten in the age of heated homes and cars. To pass the time and keep you alert, your father quizzes you. First sign of frostbite on the face. He asks, scanning ahead. White patches on the skin. You reply, usually the cheeks, nose, or ears. Cover and warm them slowly, with body heat. Never rub or use direct fire. He nods. And the most dangerous snow for walking. Powder over crust. Looks solid but breaks unpredictably, wasting energy and risking falls. After 30 minutes, the McClintock cabin comes into view through pine trees. Unlike the well-prepared Morrison homestead, their place shows worrying signs. Little snow banked against the walls, light chimney smoke, and no signs of preparing for water. Not good, your father mutters. No path is cleared to the woodpile or outhouse, meaning they haven't gone outside since the blizzard 4 days ago. Hello, the house, your father calls from 50 yards away. Approaching a cabin unannounced can be risky. In remote areas, strangers may be met with caution. No answer. He calls again, louder. The door opens a crack, and Henry McClintock's drawn, worried face appears, showing the red flush of someone sitting too close to a fire. Thomas Morrison. Relief spreads over his face. Come in. Inside, the cabin is in disarray. Unlike your family's organized space, everything here is crowded around the stove. Bedding is piled near the heat, cooking tools are scattered, and the air is stale from poor ventilation despite the constant fire. Martha McClintock sits wrapped in blankets, her 2 small children huddled close. We've been burning anything we can, Henry says, pointing to the stove where broken furniture is mixed with firewood. Down to our last wood. Didn't expect this cold so early. Your father takes in the scene quickly. How's your food? Running low. Can't get to the root cellar. No drifted against the door. This is a chain of problems. Too little wood, poor access to food, and lack of knowledge for managing a home in extreme cold. We'll dig out your cellar, your father says. I'll also show you how to stretch your wood supply. John, start clearing snow while I check the chimney and stove. Over the next 2 hours, you and your father tackle the most urgent threats. You clear paths to the woodpile and cellar. Show Henry how to bank snow against walls for insulation, and demonstrate better fire use. Inside, your father adjusts the stove and rearranges furniture to create a smaller heated area that uses less fuel. He fixes the damper, which had been set wrong and wasting wood, and teaches Martha how to make a body heat shelter. Half your heat is going up the chimney, he says, and these window gaps might as well throw wood outside. While Henry helps you with the snow, Martha listens closely to your father's tips. How do you keep children's feet warm at night? She asks. He explains the heated stone method, warming rocks, wrapping them, and placing them at bed's end for lasting heat. She also wants to know why your windows don't frost inside. Double cover them. He says oiled paper on the glass, heavy quilts over that, and rags in any gaps. By midday, the McClintocks are in a better position. Their wood will last longer. Food from the cellar is accessible. And most important, they now know how to adapt to frontier winter. We can't thank you enough, Henry says, struggling with pride. No thanks needed, your father replies. First winter, Jim Barker did the same for us. You'll do it for someone else someday. Helping neighbors was an unspoken rule. In such places, harsh conditions demanded cooperation, even among fiercely independent settlers. As you prepare to leave, Martha hands you fresh bread made from their last white flour. Please take it, she says. It's a gift that carries deep meaning, a sign of respect and shared survival. We'll check in a few days, your father says. Weather should ease by week's end. You'll be fine now. The walk home is quicker, partly because the trail is now broken, and partly because the sun has raised the temperature slightly, perhaps to 30 below instead of 40. You ask your father as the Morrison homestead comes into view. Think they'll make it? He thinks for a moment. They will now. Another day or two, and it might have been different. That stove setup was dangerously inefficient, and they were burning through wood 3 times faster than necessary. His comment isn't unkind, just factual. On the frontier, survival margins could often be calculated with precision. The McClintocks had been headed toward a freezing cabin within days, with fatal results likely. Martha's the one who will keep them alive, your father adds. She was listening and learning. Henry still has too much pride to admit what he doesn't know. This gendered side of frontier knowledge transfer is often overlooked in romanticized depictions of Western settlement. While men handled the heaviest work, women often held essential domestic survival knowledge: fire management, food preservation, textile production, and medical care that kept families alive through harsh winters. Back home, your mother greets you with relief. The Patterson place, she asks, noting you've returned earlier than expected. If you'd made both visits. Didn't make it there, your father says, removing his outer layers carefully to avoid melting snow on the cabin floor. McClintocks needed more help than I expected. We'll check on Patterson tomorrow if the weather holds. Over coffee and bread Martha provided, your father explains the McClintock situation. Your mother listens attentively, asking questions about their supplies and equipment. Should we invite them here? She asks. They could stay until the worst passes. They're stable now with what we showed them, your father replies. Better for them to learn in their own cabin if they can. Builds confidence and skills they'll need for the rest of winter. On the frontier, rescuing too soon could sometimes weaken long-term survival chances by preventing skill development. Helping neighbors while encouraging self-reliance was a careful balance. I told Martha about the winter community gathering, he adds. Said we'd take them along if they want. The winter gathering is a monthly tradition among scattered valley homesteaders, where families travel to a central cabin to share food, company, and knowledge. It's at the Hendersons this month, your mother confirms. 3 days from now, weather permitting. Mary Henderson said she'd show a new wool spinning method she learned from the Swedish family up north. Such gatherings helped in several ways, relieving isolation, sharing skills, and strengthening community bonds that could be crucial in emergencies. I should prepare something to share, your mother says. Maybe that pemmican recipe with dried berries, and Emma can show her mitten lining technique. Each family was expected to contribute to the community's shared knowledge. Even children took part, with older ones teaching skills to younger ones from other families. The next day is slightly warmer, 20 below instead of 40 so. Your father says it's safe to visit Old Man Patterson, a widower about 2 miles east. Unlike the McClintocks, Patterson is a seasoned frontiersman with decades of Montana winters behind him. His challenge is not knowledge, but age and the isolation that makes self-sufficiency harder. Your mother sends a parcel, fresh bread, preserved venison, and dried apples, nutritional support for someone who might skip proper meals. When you arrive, Patterson's cabin shows his experience. Snow banked around the walls, a clean chimney, and cleared paths despite his limited strength. Inside, wood is sorted by type and size. Food is neatly stored, and his bed is arranged to conserve heat. Thought you might have frozen in that blow. He greets with gruff warmth, checking on neighbors. Your father says, "How's your wood supply?" "Good enough," Patterson replies. "Been at this long enough to know what I need before winter starts." The visit is brief, but reinforces bonds. Even self-reliant people value connection. Coming to the Henderson gathering, your father asks, "Wouldn't miss it. Got some ideas about snowshoe bindings. Tisserand could use the company." Patterson admits, even the most independent frontiersmen needed human contact during the long winter. On the way home, your father shifts the lesson. Community is as important as firewood in winter. People aren't made to be alone. Isolation kills as surely as cold, just slower, and in other ways. Survival relied on social systems as much as technical skill. The homesteaders who lasted longest were both skilled and well-connected. Back at your cabin, preparations for the gathering begin. Your mother sorts food to share. Emma finishes her lined mittens. And younger children prepare small gifts, wooden toys, and decorated pine cones. These were more than niceties. They were contributions to the knowledge economy and aid networks that kept frontier communities alive. That evening, your father surprises everyone. "I've invited the McClintocks to stay tomorrow night. Temperatures dropping again, and I'm not sure their cabin's ready. We'll take them to the Hendersons the next day." Your mother agrees without hesitation, though it means tighter sleeping arrangements and stretching food. "I'll prepare the corner space. The children can share beds." Henry resisted at first, your father explains. But Martha persuaded him again, showing how women often made the practical decisions male pride might resist. As darkness falls and the fire is banked for the night, you reflect on what you've seen. Survival is not only about fire management, insulation, and clothing systems. It's also about social ties, shared knowledge, and mutual aid. These structures made survival possible, where even the most skilled individual alone might fail. The day of the gathering dawns clear, but bitterly cold. The McClintocks arrived the previous night. Henry, Martha, and their children, Alice, 7, and Peter, 4, tired but relieved to be warm. Sleeping space was rearranged so the McClintock children could be near the stove, and the extra body heat made the cabin warmer. At dawn, your father and Henry planned the 5-mile trip. Normally not difficult, your father says, marking the route on a hand-drawn map. But with this cold and children, we need to be ready for trouble. The brush with danger has humbled Henry. "What do you suggest?" "We'll take 2 sleds, one for supplies, one for children. If they can't walk hand, we'll bring emergency gear." On the frontier, even routine trips required contingency plans. "John, your father calls when he sees you awake. Help me prepare the emergency packs." Together, you bring out well-kept leather pouches, each with specific survival tools: fire starting, shelter making, emergency food, and basic medical supplies. The fire starting kit is the most important, with multiple ignition methods: flint and steel, a small magnifying glass, and a fire piston that creates embers through air compression. These are supplemented with various tinder materials: char, cloth, birch bark, and specially prepared pine resin that can catch a spark even in damp conditions. Check the char cloth, your father instructs. Make sure it's completely dry. You examine the blackened fabric squares, a special tinder made by partially burning cotton cloth in a closed container. When properly prepared, char cloth can catch the smallest spark, making fire possible in difficult conditions. The shelter kit contains a heavy canvas tarp, coils of rope, and several large safety pins for quickly creating a windbreak or emergency shelter. The food pack holds pemmican, dried fruit, and small packets of salt and sugar high-calorie rations that could sustain life during delays or emergencies. Your mother and Martha prepare food for both the journey and to share at the gathering, while Emma helps the younger children into their warmest clothing. Multiple layers are essential. The walk will produce heat, but stopping for too long could cause dangerous cooling without proper insulation. "Everyone drinks before we leave," your mother says, handing out cups of hot tea, sweetened with precious honey. "Starting well hydrated, helps the body resist cold. A lesson frontier families learned through long experience. By mid-morning, both families are ready. Sleds are packed, emergency kits secured, and everyone dressed in their best cold weather gear. Your father calls everyone together for a final briefing. We stay together, he emphasizes, looking at each person. No one gets more than 20 feet from the group. If your fingers, toes, or face feel cold, tell an adult right away. If anyone stops, everyone stops. These are not just careful instructions, they are survival rules, learned through generations of winter travel. I've marked 3 emergency shelter points on the route, he adds, showing the map to the adults and older children. If trouble comes, we head to the nearest one. The shelter points are natural features, a rock outcropping, a dense stand of pines, and a small cave each able to serve as a base for quick shelter building if needed. Martha McGlintock listens intently, her recent experience with danger making her appreciate the advice. Any questions? Your father asks. What's our signal if we get separated in a whiteout? Henry asks, showing he is starting to think like an experienced frontiersman. 3 short whistle blasts. Pause. Then 2 more. Your father replies, handing out wooden whistles on leather cords. Wear them outside your scarf where you can reach them fast. With preparations complete, the group sets off in people of various ages on a journey that modern travelers might call impossible in such cold, but which is a calculated risk by frontier standards. Adults form a perimeter with the children in the middle. Your father leads, breaking the trail, while Henry pulls the supply sled. Your mother and Martha walk beside the children, watching for signs of cold injury. It is about 15 below zero, bitter by modern standards, but far warmer than the -40 of the previous week. Even so, exposed skin could freeze in minutes, and a failure in clothing or shelter could be deadly. For the first hour, the trip goes smoothly. Younger children tired but stay cheerful, sometimes riding the sleds. Everyone sips from insulated water containers carried close to the body to prevent freezing. Halfway to the Henderson homestead, trouble appears. The northwest sky, once clear blue, now shows a smudge along the horizon. Your father stops, frowning. Weather's changing, he says. This skilled reading cloud patterns, wind shifts, and changes in light was essential for survival before modern weather forecasting. Should we turn back? Henry asks. No, your father replies. Henderson's is closer now, but we need to move faster. The children are placed on the sleds full time, and rest stops are kept short. Within 30 minutes, the change is obvious. The wind strengthens, carrying fine ice particles that sting exposed skin. The temperature drops, and gray overcast replaces the blue sky. It's coming faster than I thought, your father admits. We need to decide. This is the reality of frontier winter travel, rapidly changing conditions, and no modern tools for instant forecasts. There's the Carson Line Shack, half a mile east, your father says, pointing, abandoned, but still standing, last time I checked. Better than risking Henderson's if this turns into a storm. Henry nods. Lead the way. The group changes course, heading across the wind toward the shack. The children stay quiet, sensing the tension. Tell a story, Papa, little Michael asks. Your father understands the need for calm and begins a light-hearted tale about being caught in a whiteout with nothing but a buffalo hide and a tin cup, carefully told to highlight resourcefulness, not danger. The shack appears as the wind becomes strong enough to push at the group, a small, sagging structure half buried in snow. Let's check it before bringing everyone inside, your father says, while he and Henry inspect it. You keep the others moving in small circles to maintain body heat. Emma leads the children in a simple song to keep their spirits up and breathing steady. After a few minutes, your father returns. It'll do. Roofs, mostly sound, and the walls block the wind. No stove, but we can manage. The group files into the 12-foot square room with a dirt floor and plank walls. It is dark and cold, but out of the wind it feels immediately better. Your mother and Martha begin organizing supplies, while your father and Henry follow the emergency shelter, plan sealing wall gaps with canvas strips, checking the stone fireplace, and preparing for heat. The fireplace is primitive, but usable. Now for fire, your father says, arranging char cloth in the center of a careful tinder labored bark shavings, pine splinters, and small sticks in a teepee shape. Single match fire. He notes a point of pride and necessity in survival conditions. Shielding the flame, he lights the char cloth, blows gently, and watches it spread to the birch bark, then the pine splinters. Soon, a steady fire burns. We'll need more fuel, he says, searching the shack for usable materials, broken furniture, fallen planks, and even old harness leather. These will burn slowly and allow emergency wood to be saved. As the fire grows, the temperature rises from dangerously cold to uncomfortable but safe. Children sit closest to the fire, adults forming a protective ring. Outside, the wind howls, but inside the group is warming. Good call on the shack, Henry says quietly. Out here, the weather makes the final decision, your father replies. Your mother prepares an emergency meal instead of the planned gathering feasta. Simple soup of dried meat, preserved vegetables, and a little barley, providing warmth, hydration, and energy. The children, calmer now, join in quiet games led by Emma, keeping spirits up while the storm passes outside. Remember, happy minds make warm bodies, your mother says approvingly as she watches Emma's work. This old frontier wisdom, linking mental well-being to physical strength, anticipated modern survival psychology by generations. As the soup simmers, filling the rough shelter with its aroma, your father checks each person for signs of cold injury, focusing on the extremities, toes, ears, and noses, where frostbite usually appears first. He finds that Peter's left boot has gotten snow inside and examines the boy's foot. This needs immediate attention. Following a careful frostbite response, he removes the wet sock, warms the foot gradually with indirect heat, massages to restore blood flow, and gives the child warm liquids to raise core temperature. He then improvises a dry foot covering from spare clothing in the emergency pack. Keep checking it, he tells Martha. If you see any white spots or he says it feels numb, tell me right away. This incident shows another key part of frontier emergency practice, dealing with small problems before they become dangerous. A wet foot left untreated could develop frostbite within an hour, leading to tissue loss or even amputation in a time before antibiotics and modern medical care. The storm worsens through the afternoon, confirming the wisdom of taking shelter rather than trying to reach the Henderson home. What might have been a pleasant community visit has become an emergency situation, not desperate, thanks to preparation and good decisions, but serious nonetheless. As evening nears, your father moves to the next stage of the emergency plan, preparing for an overnight stay. This wasn't the original plan, but survival on the frontier meant adapting quickly. We'll set up sleeping shifts, he tells the adults. To awake at all times, one to keep the fire going, one to watch everyone else. This system ensures the fire is never left alone and allows quick action if someone shows signs of hypothermia in their sleep. Sleeping positions are planned carefully. Children in the center for warmth. Adults forming a protective ring, all with feet toward the fire since circulation slows during sleep. What about the Hendersons? Martha asks. Won't they worry? Your father reassures her. They'll know we either turned back or found shelter. No one would expect travel in this weather. Among frontier people, there was an unspoken understanding, no risky rescue attempts if travelers were likely following proper survival steps. Dinner is rationed from emergency stores enough to keep up energy and morale without using too much in case the stay is longer. Your mother adds a rare treat, a little sugar mixed with snow for a simple dessert. A bit of sweetness keeps spirits up, she explains to Martha. Happy children make for a calmer shelter. By nightfall, the abandoned shack has been turned into a relatively warm and secure refuge. Near the fire, the temperature reaches 60 degrees Fahrenheit, a remarkable result in a sub-zero storm outside. The children fall asleep quickly, and the adults begin the watch rotation. Your father and Henry, taking the first shift, should ease up by morning. Your father predicts. Henry asks how he can tell. Wind started fast and peaked early, he replies. The long blizzards build slower. Been watching Montana winters for 15 years. Modern meteorology might explain it with pressure systems, but his method is equally sound. The night passes in a steady rhythm, fire tended, sleepers checked, shelter maintained against the wind, watches change every 2 hours so everyone gets rest. By dawn, as predicted, the storm weakens. The wind drops to occasional gusts, and visibility improves. We'll wait another hour to be sure, your father decides. Patience was another survival rule. Many accidents happened when people left shelter too soon and got caught by a second wave of the storm. The extra hour is used for careful preparation, checking clothing, eating a hot meal, packing supplies. Nothing is left to chance. When leaving, your father says, "Leave the fireplace stocked. Next traveler should find it ready." This small act could save lives on, example of the frontier ethic of helping others, even unknown future travelers. The trip to the Henderson home is easier now, with occasional sun and no wind, though still bitterly cold. Approaching the cabin, you reflect on the fine line between safety and disaster in winter travel. What began as a routine trip turned into an emergency resolved through preparation, skill, and timely choices. Inside the Henderson cabin, no long explanations are needed. Found shelter at the old Carson shack, your father says. Adam Henderson nods. Smart move. That was a quick one, came faster than expected. This plain exchange shows the frontier-style calm competence, not drama. The gathering continues, its purpose unchanged, sharing skills and strengthening social ties that helped isolated settlers survive winter. Mary Henderson demonstrates a new spinning method. Others share food preservation ideas, and children trade simple handmade toys. Sitting by the fire, you realize you are seeing a complete survival system in action. Technical skills, like building fires and rationing food, combined with a strong community network for passing on knowledge. This was the real strength of frontier winter. Survival not just the how-to methods, but the social systems that made them effective. Modern travelers with high-tech gear rarely need this level of knowledge, but something is lost in relying only on technology. Lying in your modern bed, you imagine having such deep, confident skill, knowing exactly how to survive in conditions most people today could not face. There is a quiet satisfaction in knowing that our ancestors met winter's hardest challenges with only knowledge, preparation, and community to carry them through the longest nights.